Good morning, beautiful people. Marie Alessi here with a very vulnerable topic, just for me to get it out. And I want to talk to you about the strength, the power that lies within vulnerability. And this year has certainly taught me the strength of that, the power, the incredible power that lies within letting go and allowing yourself to be vulnerable with the world, with yourself, with your friends, and really test the waters. I want to share my story with you, how I discovered vulnerability, not even on a search for it, just on my path through life and the things that have been presented to me, the things that I've been dealt with, the gifts that I received throughout adversity, throughout relationship breakups, throughout um, building work that's been going on in my life for the last 2.5 months. So, since the beginning of the year, there was literally one thing after the other that happened in my life that cost me a lot of energy. And I say that in the most grateful way, because the costing me energy for me was an investment into my future, an investment to who I am today, and an investment into the person who's sitting here right now sharing this with you, because I do not believe that I would have been able to share what I'm about to share with you about 9 months ago. So I will take you back through my little journey of life just since the beginning of this year, because this is more than enough to fill my 20-30 minutes that I have with you this morning. And my year started off with a final breakup of a 14 months relationship that was very, very important to me, very close to my heart. I was with a partner that I felt extremely in tune and very close with. And I had come to a point after three breakups that I would have to do this one more time, to go through a breakup. And basically, what I experienced was that inner knowing that I had to let him go with love. And I really want to put the emphasis on that, letting him go with love, because it was not that we stopped loving each other. It was just that we had reached a point where I realized there was no future for us, that his healing journey had still a very, very way to go, and that my own healing journey was taking me on a path where I realized that I had compromised my most important values, and that was not acceptable for me. So when I realized that his work had to be done somewhere else, but not with me. That's the only way I can put it. I had to let him go with love, because I knew that he was needed elsewhere, probably within himself the most. But, living a long distance relationship per se wasn't easy. Add COVID to the mix and lockdowns in his state, in my state. And what I want to say is that I was left behind with an immense sense of gratitude and love for the healing that I have experienced through this relationship, for a healing that I would have probably not been able to experience on such a deep and profound level, in a way where I felt held and loved and nurtured and really safe. That is a really important key word here. I felt safe in this relationship to heal the things that I have healed. And so that was the first step for me into deepest vulnerability, into really digging deep into what was it that brought me to that space of allowing myself to let go and not holding on to something where I was hoping to receive something that I knew wasn't possible for him to give. And that probably brought old patterns up in me as well, from some unhealthy relationships that I lived before I met Rob. And it also brought me back to this most beautiful sentence that I gathered from a children's book from Neil Donald Walsh that I've quoted many times over, and that is, "I only ever sent you angels." And this gentleman truly was an angel sent to me at the perfect time. But also learning when it is healthy for you, or healthier for you, to let go rather than holding on to something you're hoping for. and realizing that you're compromising your values, that was a really, really big step for me. And I am so grateful that I was able to walk this step and that I was able to do that knowing that I had some really close and extremely important friends around me to hold space for me in these times where there was a lot of tears and heartbreak and um, having to relearn to come back to center and to nurture myself, to nurture my heart, to know that it was the right decision for me, yet still dealing with the aftermath of it and going into self protection mode and hiding away and pretending to the outside world that everything was fine, where on the inside I was crumbling. And I realized in those few months afterwards, where I was working through the heartache and the decision that I had made and processing through the emotions, the waves and waves of emotions that came with it, that holding on to that pretend that I'm fine to the outside world cost me a lot more strength than allowing myself vulnerability. So, as I said, it was a step by step process for me, and I tested the water with those who were very, very near and dear to me, where I felt safe, where I could open up, where I could share my deepest inners falling apart and feelings around this, and also things that it had re-triggered for me in terms of losing Rob and then losing another relationship, and also a little bit of shame. It wasn't too much of it, but some people had said to me, "Oh, the first relationship after losing someone never lasts, and he might just be." I don't know. There were a lot of thoughts and accusations that I did not allow in, but it was that, oh, now people would think that they were right, and all that judgment. And luckily, I had allowed myself to let go of that very, very quickly, um, due to having the right people around me, being so open, so honest, so reflecting with me, holding space for me, loving me through the storm. And that was something that I had to learn, to love myself through the storm, and to be sitting here sharing this with you and with pretty much the whole world outside, whoever will hear this, being fully aware that even he might see that. I am okay with that today. I'm so okay with that because I realize that vulnerability is my true strength. Being open and honest with myself, where I stand, where I stood, what I have achieved through that is incredible. So, followed on by that, actually, in the same month when a breakup happened, I also stabbed my thumb against the car door. And after going through, different specialists and MRI and X-ray and bone scan and you name it, I had everything going on. Hand therapy. Nobody could find what was truly going on. About 5 months later, I finally insisted on a second opinion, and they realized I had two torn ligaments in my left thumb and I needed hand surgery. So here's the scar. I've regained so much, mobility again through constant training and stretching and practicing. It was incredible. The going through all of that on top of all the emotional stuff, there was just turmoil after turmoil happening in my life. At the same time, around Rob's passing anniversary, we came home to water leakage. There was water dripping through the ceiling of my laundry, and above my laundry is my ensuite in my master bedroom. And to cut a very long story short, some of you might have heard the story before, but it ended up we had to strip out the entire ensuite back to timber. There was destruction, demolition, construction work going on in my home, in my sacred haven for over 2 months. And when they stripped it back, they realized that the structural beams of 30 centimeters had rotted down to like a quarter of it. So we were estimated 2 months away from that entire bathroom would have broken through to my laundry. So to top that off, they had to strip out the laundry ceiling as well and rebuild the whole structure, rebuild the whole bathroom. After about a month of working with this builder and lockdown to the mix, I think he might have lost his marbles, to use his own words for that. He started bullying me. His behavior towards me got downhill and was really aggressive, started in yelling at each other. He triggered things in me that I had to really look at. I was like, that was really interesting. Nobody has triggered me that deeply in a really, really long time. And ended up in a lot of things happening in my home that were literally, just destroying, like holes whacked in a hole where they shouldn't have been, two different holes cut incorrectly, a massive scratch going through my entire living room that they denied that it was them. And we then figured out it was literally one of his workers, probably dragging an empty bag with broken tiles through my entire living room. He came to fix it, to buff it up, and actually highlighted a whole scratch. It looks worse than ever before. There was one thing after the other. I had to get a painter in to repaint because of all the damage. And during that whole entire time, I also had an NCAT case against my car company and my hand surgery. So there was turmoil going on over and over. And I realized that I got to breaking point quite a few times. I actually had anxiety happening throughout the whole bullying with the builder, and had to ask my closest friend to come and sit with me. And I said to him, "You don't need to defend me. I just need you to be here and, literally protect me, basically, like energetically. I just needed somebody to be with me." And it worked perfectly well. So, the reason I'm sharing all of that with you is because we often think that we're the only ones going through stuff like that. And, add the whole lockdown and homeschooling to the mix. And I literally, for the first time in a long time, I felt the loneliness, and I felt the effect of not having Rob with me or a partner with me to make some major decisions around various things in my life. And I felt the effect of it. I felt my vulnerability through it. I felt the loneliness and sometimes even helplessness. And at first, my go to thing was, I can do this, I'm a strong woman, I don't need support with this, but I do. And I did need support. And speaking out about it was the most healing and most helpful part for me, because I always talk about and preach about to please do reach out for help. In particular, in my group, Loving Life After Loss, I so often say, I understand how much strength it requires to speak out when you need help. And then all of a sudden I thought, well, where's my part in this? Why don't I do that? And I always thought I did, but I didn't. In the most intense time of my life, I was hiding away with those things till I realized it and got myself to speak up about it. And I realized, I started off with those. There's a white feather floating outside. I love when this happens during talks like this. I started off with friends that are really near and dear to me, very close to my heart, where I felt safe, where I felt it was okay to speak up about it and speak up about how I feel lonely, and the effect was incredible. The more often I did it, the easier it became for me. It became such a um, automated go-to, because I felt the lightness of it and the relief of it. And I realized the holding on to it and pretending that everything was fine, and that pretending I'm so strong, I didn't realize I went into pretending. I thought I was. And then in my vulnerability, I found my true strength. And it was so incredibly healing and freeing. I felt freedom and lightness in letting go and in sharing how I truly felt, in sharing um, what was truly going on in my life. And here's one of my biggest things that I've been holding on to for so many years. And I started more and more with close friends and then also in my programs, to sometimes bring that up as an example when it was appropriate. And now I'm sharing it with all of you. There was shame in holding on to this. And no, I was holding on to shame. And it had something to do with my childhood. And I'm going to share it with you in a minute, but I want to give you the background story of it so you understand how big this was for me. From quite early on, I had huge visions for my future. I was thinking about, one day sitting in talk shows, sitting in interviews, and the one thing, the one tiny little thing that was holding me back, and that constantly and continuously got me to hide away from public speaking, from the outside world. I was petrified of public speaking, but it wasn't the public speaking. It wasn't even so much the judgment where you always say, well, nobody has got fear of public speaking. What lays behind it is actually fear of judgment. For me, it went even deeper. It was about sexual abuse in my childhood, that I was worried that in some weird way, in some topic of conversation, in some maybe funny joke, it might come up and I might blush about it, or I might crumble around it, or I might feel that I just want to run and hide. And the one big dark secret that I was hiding away for so long for the world not to see, the sexual abuse in my childhood, was actually the one thing that was holding me back from being completely free, from completely healing throughout my entire life, from completely allowing healing to enter my whole heart, my entire body, and to be open and vulnerable for a really healthy and beautiful relationship that I want to attract into my life. So I decided literally this morning to share that part of you, as a part of me, with you as well, because I believed that in my entire learning and beautiful healing journey and the path that I have walked since the beginning of the year in particular, it was time to let go of that dark secret as well and share it with all of you, because there is no real shame behind that. And there is no shame in admitting of what was going on in your life and what had been holding you back, in particular once you have healed it. And I can certainly say that I have healed that sexual abuse from my childhood. And that is probably something that I have also this beautiful gentleman to thank for, and also my husband to thank for, to hold space for me in all these years of my attempts in healing this. And there was one beautiful thing that Brene Brown actually said. You know, there is the shame is actually fear of disconnection. And it is so true. When you think about what shame truly is and how it really translates to fear of disconnection. When you feel shame about something, I was worried, I was scared about leaving losing connection with people. I was worried about that I wouldn't be lovable for people, that people would judge me, that people would blame me, that people would think differently or dirty about me, which couldn't be further from the truth. You know, whenever I share these things, I realize how much freedom lies in it, not just for me to let go of it, but also for others to allow them to realize it is okay to talk about it and to realize they are not alone in this. There's so many women that have gone through sexual abuse in their childhood, and I think it is time for us to let go of that stigma around it and of that shame that we carry within us over all these years and decades, and the impact that it has on our lives if we don't allow healing into our hearts. And there's one line that my beautiful godfather Ricardo said to me last night when I talked to him about the topic of vulnerability. That was after I'd already decided to talk about this today, and I thought this is a really, really beautiful sentence that I would love to share with you as a beautiful finishing this off statement, if that makes sense. I actually translated that from German because I'm sure there's probably an English version somewhere out there. It's by Gabor Mate. And so if it's a bit of a dodgy translation, please forgive me. I want you to listen to this very carefully, and I'm actually going to read it to you twice because it's so, so important to me. Healing requires and contains the regaining of vulnerability, which originally led us to switch off emotionally. Isn't that incredible? I'm going to read it to you again. Healing requires and contains the regaining of vulnerability, which originally led us to switch off emotionally. It's incredible, isn't it? I have found an incredible strength in vulnerability. And the more I open my heart and the more I share my own vulnerability, my own story, my deepest, darkest secrets with you and with the entire world out there, the more I realize that there is no shame around that, the more I realize that there is so much healing within that. There is so much lightness and freedom to be gained in letting go, in allowing myself to open up, to open my heart, to share this love with the entire world. And the more love I share, the more I receive back. So, with that being said, thank you so much. Thank you so much for allowing me to share this with you, for watching this entire video to the very end. And I'm sending you bucket loads and oodles of love straight from my heart to yours. If you feel like reaching out to me and sharing some of your deepest, darkest secrets with me, my heart is wide open, and I can assure you that I can help you with this. So much love to you. This is Marie signing off. Bye for now.